So we're live.
Yes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. And I guess maybe, people will continue to be joining us, but welcome if you are watching. So we're here on Becky's page again. And tonight we are all very excited because we're going to talk about Victober recommendations and also marrying that with a discussion we've been having a lot of lately, and that is specific editions of classics, maybe the ones that we like and the ones that we don't like. Um, but first, we'll do what we're currently reading, and I am finishing up the next in the Flavia DeLuce series, which it's called The Dead and Their Vaulted Arches. I always have trouble remembering the titles to them. Um, I don't know why, but I do. So is it the sixth one? Is
Yes,
that okay? So
I
it's the
believe.
sixth one, and it's like there's not much of a synopsis I feel that's safe to give for this one because it starts off with something that's just like a big turn of events, kind of a mystery that's been there for the whole beginning part of the series. So that's really come to light, and they're finding out more and more about that. But just you're seeing, Becky was saying earlier, you're seeing Flavia really grow up and come into her own, and so it's neat to see her character growth. And then an ebook I'm reading, uh, just a little Victober warm up, is called The Diary of a Nobody. And this is the other night when I had insomnia, I was reading in bed and I had to put it down. It was like not safe to read because I was going to laugh out loud. Like, so it's late Victorian era. So it's very like lively and fast paced, and it's just a man's diary and him telling like just the like what am I trying to say? Like household problems, like the sink is broken, and drama with his son and his friends, and the little like tiffs that they get into. And it's just so funny and so fast paced. And I'm trying to read a few of these kinds of books to do a Victober video on Victorian, be really comfortable starting with. Um, so that's very fun. And then just finishing up Guard Your Daughters by Diana Tutton, I think is how you say it, which is a Persephone that I've
Hmm.
been reading with Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures and Ange from Beyond the Pages. And this is really interesting, because it's an interesting modern classic in that it's very true to life. So there's a lot of like bittersweet in there, but it also has some really laugh out loud funny moments. But it's about five sisters, and that has been it's been a really special book to read because the sister dynamics, the relationships feel so real, like the different pet peeves that they have with one another, but then how they can just be like kindred spirits and just be like the best of friends right after having a fight. It just feels it's a really special book. So I'm really excited about that one. And then lastly, the next of my Cinderella project is called Just Ella. Have either of you read this?
No.
Okay.
No.
This is a Cinderella sequel. Um, and it's fun because it is kind of particularly with like the Disney like 1950s cartoon, how there's like zero character development with the prince whatsoever. It's like she's like, I don't really know him. Like he's really handsome, but like we don't have anything to talk about. And it's all like, you know, different like female authority figures in there. Madame Bissette. I'm not sure like how she is in relation to her. Maybe one of the like queen's ladies in waiting. Anyhow, are constantly on her about her bad manners, and so she just feels like so restrained and not comfortable. So I think it's a fun take on it.
Yeah,
Um,
that seems like a lot of fun.
yeah, yeah. So kind of like, well, yeah. I mean, they really don't know each other. Like, what do they have to talk about? Um,
Is that
yeah.
one YA or middle grade?
I'd say it's more middle grade. It's been a very quick read. It's 218 pages. Um, and I think, although it won ALA Best Book for Young Adults. So, but it's very light young adult if it is. And there might even be a sequel to this that she's in this world, but not the main character. So I'm not sure exactly. But yes, so those are my current reads. So Becky, over to you.
Okay. I only have one or two right now. I am almost done listening to the audiobook for An Act of Villainy, which is the fifth book in the Amory Ames series, which I binged the first four late last year or early this year, where I just I did one after the other and I really enjoyed them. And I was like, oh wait, the fifth one isn't out yet. Oh. So I had marked on my calendar when it was going to come out, and I had written a request to the library for them to get it. And I know. And I went in and they had a digital copy of the audiobook available the morning that the book came out, at least in the United States. I think it came out earlier in the UK. So I think I have about an hour and a half left of that. I am not enjoying it quite as much as I enjoyed the first four, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I'm still enjoying the series. So and then I'm still reading Hillbilly Elegy, is a memoir, and that's been about it. We were talking before we started, September is kind of a hard reading month because we have all these books we want to read in October, and we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs, oh, what do I read between now and October 1st?
Sorry, I just looked at the live chat, and Bree Hill says hi. Hi, Bree.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'll try to monitor.
So that's it for me. Mine was very short. So Bethany, if you will now tell us.
Mine is short too. September's a hard reading month because we're anticipating Victober, but for me, I just went for it and grabbed Little Dorrit. I didn't care. I'm I gotta read this now. It was actually on my Victober TBR last year. I didn't participate in 2016, although I read one of the Sherlock Holmes mysteries, but I didn't know about Victober, so
yeah.
I never got to this one, so I'm I should do that before Victober and kind of dip my toes in early. And it's really good. I love Dickens, so, reading Dickens is just fun. And then I'm reading Pat of Silver Bush on my Kindle. So
it's first in the Pat series?
I think so. I'm not sure how many are in that one because Emily was 3, and then I think Jane of Lantern Hill was a standalone.
Okay.
But Pat of Silver Bush, I hadn't even heard of until I started.
I've never heard of that. Is it an Ellen Montgomery?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I've been reading a bunch of her books this year, and I was oh, this is really good. Because growing up, it was just Anne of Green Gables. That's all I had about. And then I heard about the Blue Castle from you, Kate, and then got into that. And then I was okay, what else does she have? And started picking up more and more of her books, and then I was oh, I'm hooked. These are just such cozy,
friends.
fun. Yeah, they're friends. Yeah, they're really good.
They're kindred spirits.
Yes. So, and I'm only reading those two, and I haven't even gotten hardly anywhere into Pat of Silverbush yet because I opened it and got distracted, and then I'm all right, well, I'll get back to that later. But
it'll still be there.
Oh, it'll go fast. When I actually have the time to sit with it, it'll go fast. So
yes, yeah, they always do once you sit down and dedicate time to it. So Bethany, do you want to start us off then and show maybe some of your Victober recommendations / editions of classics you like?
Sure. I'm gonna start off with one of the best, and Kate can gush with me on this. Lady Audley's Secret. This is a Penguin edition, Penguin Classics, which Becky and I were talking about how many Penguin Classics editions there are out there. Yeah. And this is 5 stars from me because it's you've already explained it. It's a mystery, suspense, and drama and thrill all wrapped in one. Wonderful. And it goes fast for as long as it is. It goes really fast. You're just flipping through it.
Yeah, so beautifully written.
Yes, yeah, and it's good for like fall because it's kind of spooky a little bit too.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah,
So
I was about to reference something that I'm like, nope, I don't even want to.
Well,
no
it's on my Booktober TBR because you guys keep talking about it. I'm like, well, I must read this book. I gotta jump on the Lady Omni Secret train.
we won't spoil it for you, Becky.
We
Okay.
will not. It's so funny you showed it because I was gonna like talk about it, but I'm like, if only there's this one edition that Penguin has. I wish I could hold up a picture. So that's so cool. You have that specific edition.
Yes. I like hunted it down. I was like, ooh, that edition is so pretty. I want that one.
Is that the
Yeah.
one that you texted me and you're like, where do I find this book?
Yeah.
That one day?
Yep.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I'm like, Becky, help! Because I don't think I had known about Abe Books before. I knew about Book Depository because this is actually like a UK edition, I guess.
Yeah.
And because on the back it's got UK and Canada. So I was like, how do I find this in the US? And Becky's like, look on Abe Books. And I did, and I was like, oh, this is just a whole new world. They're all like used and under $5, and now I'm like buying them all the time.
Unbelievable. It's unreal. And even there's like, I've looked up, there's a hardcover called The Christmas Chronicles, which is supposed to be this really beautiful like Christmas cookbook, but also essays on Christmas. Like $30 on the Book Depository and like $7 on Abe Books, which obviously it's used, so that's why it's somewhat cheap. I can find it for like reasonable.
And you don't mind the used books as much anyway, because it's just like, I don't know, I don't mind them. I like paperbacks. I keep talking about like, oh, give me the floppy, give me all the floppy paperbacks.
Yeah. I mean, if the front cover is like ripped off when I get I probably wouldn't like that, but gently used, I don't care. Okay, and also about that edition of Lady Audley's Secret, I really like editions of classics that show like something unique about the plot. So I guess this is a good segue into this edition of Middlemarch.
Yes.
Ooh,
I love
that's
this
pretty.
because it's like this is not just like every other classic book cover out there, and so I just love it's all on like a white glove because it's like such a small community, and it's got like all the little locations, and then of course the gold foil. But Middlemarch, I give a like complicated recommendation for Middlemarch. So it is a big commitment. It's very slow, delayed gratification. But now, and even the first, so I've read it twice. And the first time after I finished, I was like, I'm done. I can say that I read it. It's checked off the list. It's one of those books, and I can say I'm cultured. But I was like just relieved to be done. But I did read it again in, I can't even remember what month, maybe March. And it paid off so much the second time around. If you think, like some people say Jane Austen feels like very restrained compared to the Brontes, if you think Jane Austen feels restrained, George Eliot will see that and raise it. But it then makes the ending all the more like exponentially more rewarding. And really the characters, I really like thought about some of them differently, like more positively or less positively the second time around. So I think it definitely gives you as much of a reward as the effort that you put into it.
I love that edition. That is a lot better than the edition I have, which we've talked about.
Oh, yes.
Look at the creepy It's a nice, like, this is Modern Library hardcover. And like once you pull the jacket off of it, it's actually not too bad.
It's fine.
And it's pretty floppy. I mean, and the pages are really smooth, so it's nice. But just that cover is so creepy.
Cover.
Yes.
Scary. Not nice looking, but then floppy. But then I have their paperbacks are my favorite because they pick paintings for the paperback. So here's Little Dorrit.
Ooh.
And these are ones like you can sit and eat breakfast and like not have to hold the book open.
I have a bunch of the. I love the paperback modern classics.
Love them. I got a couple for this year's TBR. So I'm really happy to have those. Oh, Coffee Books and BBC says, good to know about A Books. I want to gift my daughter really unique editions of all her favorite books for Christmas this year. That is wonderful.
Yeah,
She
tip for ABE books too. Some people call it ABE, some people call it ABE. I'm not actually sure. I grew up calling it ABE. But a tip for ABE books is if you go to advanced searches, you can search specifically if you want particular publisher, paperback, hardback, or even what year you want it. So the first antique book I ever got, I think I talked about it before on our Instagram stream page, is a book of Pollyanna that was published within the first year or two of when it was released. Because I told my dad I wanted a pretty antique copy of Pollyanna. So he went through and he put the cutoff publication date,
my goodness,
a particular year. So let me grab it real quick because it's just so pretty. I have to show it off.
Do.
But anyway, so it's probably going to show up backward. But this one, again, it's not like a first edition or anything.
But like maybe a second?
24th.
Wow.
So this one is from 1914, but it's copyright. The copyright was 1912. So this came out like 2 or 3 years later after the original. But anyway,
you knowing about that website. That's cool.
Yeah, so I grew up, like all my college textbooks came from ABE books.
Hey, there you go. Oh, Are You Still Reading says, I love looking at terrible covers for classic books. Yes.
That's great. As well as pretty covers.
Yes. So, Becky, do you want to show a recommendation?
Yes. So, just since we talked about it a little bit, whenever our last live stream was, last week, The Woman in White, which is just so much fun and very suspenseful. And yes, it's like 600 pages long, but it goes by very quickly. And Kate and I had kind of alluded to this last time we had talked about it, but there were certain parts of the book that we thought wouldn't happen until the end, and they happened very early on in the plot, which is very exciting because then you're like, oh my goodness, this just happened. But there's still a good chunk of the book left. Like, what's going to happen? And I had been looking for a copy of still the price tag on it from the used bookstore. I'm terrible.
Oh, so this is new to you.
This one is, I'm terrible about taking price tags off. My husband has to open my Christmas presents because I will leave the tags on there forever.
That's so
I actually bought this I bought this in May. So I'm just now taking the price tag
Becky,
off.
I'm the opposite. When I get books and they come with like a sticker on the front, I'm like, dig, 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 dig. I gotta get it off.
Yes.
It's marring my copy.
Yeah, I'm terrible. But anyway, the plot just moves really quickly. And there are a few different narrators, which I really enjoyed getting their different perspectives. This one is an Everyman's Library edition, so it is a little more recent, but I do like hardcovers. As you can see, we kind of decorate with books in my home, so we like them to look pretty. But they are pretty floppy.
Yeah.
All things
Did you
considered.
break
They're
that
bound.
one in?
Huh?
Did you break that one in? Like
Nope.
with your
This
book
one was
yoga?
used. So it was. I'm thinking
Bree
of
says
putting.
she's thinking of putting The Woman in White on her TBR for this.
Do it.
October. Bree, I'm telling you, if you like the way the suspense built in Lady Audley's Secret, it's like the same way for The Woman in White, and it has female friendship.
It does. So anyway, Everyone's Library. So hardcover, cloth bound, but it's lightweight, so your wrists don't hurt while you're reading it. It's floppy. It's got the fancy little fabric ribbon.
Very Victorian looking.
Anyway, and I just think it's pretty and classy. And they also, Everyone's Library also does the children's classics. We have 3 of these. This one is Alice in Wonderland.
Ooh.
Those are beautiful.
But, and they usually have like fun artwork and stuff on the front. We also have Red Riding Hood and Just So Stories by Rudyard Kipling. But anyway, and again, like I will say these, because we get most of our books used, the gold on the side has faded a little bit, but the overall binding of the book is still really good. And then nice and fluffy. So that's an addition and a recommendation kind of in one.
Nice.
So
Cool.
back to you, Kate.
Yeah, so I do, if a hardcover is going to be genuinely floppy, I do like it, but I do really like the art, the good art on paperback. So here's my vintage red spine of it.
Oh.
Really, yeah, I really do like this one. So we can all hold up. I'm sure we have some vintage red spines to show. I was so excited to find this of Dombey and Son. It looks
I've
like
got the same one.
It's just, and it was so, I found this at the Strand in New York City when I went with booktubers, and I wish I could see how much it was for. It doesn't say how much it cost. I think it was probably like $5. It was something outrageous. And then I also have this copy of the Pickwick Papers.
Oh, that is beautiful.
I wish I forgot to bring down at the same trip I found Martin Chuzzlewit in this edition. Oh, yay! You have it.
It's got like the poison on the front of it. How Victober is that?
Very.
Becky's like, now I want to read that.
I know. I'm like, you guys are going to change my opinion on Dickens.
Yeah. So wait, what is the poison on the cover? Does it have a label?
Yeah. It doesn't say what kind. It's real like blurry. It just says poison up here. Becky might be able to decipher it if she had it like in hand, but I don't know. It looks like it's just directions. It doesn't say what it actually is, but oh, it's so beautiful. I'm like,
yes.
I don't know. These, I mean, they might not be as floppy as like the penguin. I don't know, like the tuxedo
or whatever. Black spine. Yes.
So floppy, but they're still pretty good. I mean, like they're not by any means.
Yes. Plus, I think they're very like the penguin black spine are very. I have some of those, and I really like them, but they're very like classic art. Whereas these look like pop art. Like they just, I don't know, they look like they're like specially designed. I don't know. And to look like exciting for people who might not necessarily be interested in classics.
Right. That's a big deal. People look at the book covers all the time and they're like, oh, I don't want to read that, you know, but it might be a really great book. Like with Mary Stewart covers, some of like the older covers, it's like, is this like a romance novel? What is this? And they're amazing mysteries.
Yes, so. Totally.
I love paperbacks. They're easier to read. My favorite's the Oxford World's Classics. Yes. I love those too. And the regular black spine penguins. Yes. Those are good additions for paperbacks. I agree.
I love this one. This is Daniel Deronda. Now there's also, it's weird because there's another Oxford World Classic paperback of Daniel Deronda that's not this. So I think they came out with 2. But I do like these 2, and these are pretty floppy. I think font size is slightly bigger in the vintage red spine. So that is one thing. I have heard some people say, you know, if you have reading, like vision trouble at all, that these do feel a little small. But for now, the font doesn't feel too small for me. And Daniel Deronda, I would say, is another George Eliot, which, if you're trying to find one for the challenge of read, well, it'll work for Proper Noun, my challenge, read a book with proper noun in the title, or Lucy's challenge to read a novel written by a woman under a pseudonym or anonymously. And you could watch the film adaptation of this. So anyhow, this is like a very approachable one, and it's got a lot going on in it. It's a really, if you like stories that have like tons and tons and tons of characters, and you see how they all relate to one another, it's really fun. So, yes, definitely good. Bethany, do you want to show one?
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna show The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins, and you know, The Woman in White was really, really good, and The Moonstone was very good as well. And I love these Barnes and Noble paperback editions. I just
I
love
like
the way
them
they
too.
look and feel. I mean, look at that scene on the front. It just
Yes.
makes me want to read it. It's like, ooh, it's so like foggy and English.
Totally.
You know?
Yes.
But
Foggy and
yeah,
dirty looking.
I know. I'm into that because of Dickens. You know, it's just like the atmosphere of Dickens's novels. I'm just like, oh yeah, today was rainy and I'm reading Little Dorrit, and I'm like, yes, this is perfect. It's perfect. But
Yes.
yeah, this is good. It's a mystery, and I don't want to give anything away. Spoilers. I don't even know if I remember. I remember a lot of the scenes specifically in my head, but I don't even know if I remember the resolution completely. I just like, which is good. I
Well,
don't want to give away any spoilers, but it was really good. I want to reread it for sure. Not this Victober,
yes.
but
It's
it
an
was,
odd resolution. That's why.
yeah.
Oh, Are You Still Reading says, I love the Barnes and Noble collectible editions, the like big hardcovers, but they're not practical for reading outside your home. That is so true. They are like
It's so
small.
true. Are those the leather bound ones?
Yeah,
I think,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have those. I have the Barnes and Noble, like just the typical
Single.
hardcover. They're not. I don't think these are collectible.
Yeah, no, I know which. We have the William Shakespeare
They're the
one.
ones that
Oh
it's
yeah,
printed on the actual cover. They don't have like a slip cover.
that's nice.
It is nice, and they look so pretty. But yeah, they're like it would be like just kind of cumbersome to like take it to the coffee shop.
Oh,
Sorry, I was pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I have that book too. Yeah.
Yeah. They are very affordable if you
Hmm.
They
want
are.
a really pretty. I mean, I think I want to say that this was only like 20 or 25 bucks, which for a new like leather bound hardcover is really
Yeah.
nice. I had one person tell me I have not had this experience. I had one person tell me they were not totally happy with the quality of these.
After
Um,
reading it, did it like it felt
yeah,
more
so
real
one
than they were?
person, Bethany, I actually think it was your cousin.
Those
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I think it was Liz, but I'm not sure. Um, it was either that or someone I went to college with. So I don't want to put words in Liz's mouth. So Liz, if you watch this and you didn't say it, I'm sorry. But I
not
had one
sponsored by
person that
Barnes
said
and
that they
Noble. It's
had
okay.
it. They had one in a bag, and like some of the color wore off or like kind of bled onto the bag. I think it was a red one, but I have not had that experience. So I don't know if they just like got a poorly printed one or if they had my only complaint is with the Shakespeare, it does not have a lot of endnotes. So if you are not familiar with the older English,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you might not get as much out of them. At the same time, I am sometimes distracted by footnotes. So if you don't want footnotes
Yeah,
and you'd rather look up things on your own, you might like these. But yeah, they are
yeah.
very pretty, but I've heard mixed things about them.
Mm.
So
Huh.
okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to take control
That's
and go on a
fine.
tangent. I was just like,
No,
we
no,
have
no.
one of those. I must
Oh
talk about it.
yeah. No, that's
Good
good
for
because I wasn't sure what they looked like.
Yeah,
It's hard to Google when you're, on Google Hangouts.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I do like their children's one because I do have the children's one of Heidi,
Love those.
and Heidi in the story has brown curly hair, and so many books put her as a blonde in braids, and it just makes me sad. I'm like, did you read the book within these covers?
I wonder if Shirley Temple is the reason.
That or like people think that all Germans have blonde hair. I don't
Yeah,
know. Or Swiss. I guess she's not German, but um yeah.
interesting.
But no, Heidi has dark hair, and so my friend Joanna was very kind and found me a Heidi that was brunette because that's what she looks like. So I do like the children's ones, and I for some reason I almost feel like the children's ones are better quality than the adult ones. It's a little weird, so I can't totally complain.
Maybe because they're not as long, so they can like spend more on like I don't know the printing of it or something.
I don't know, but yeah, but it's
Yeah. Do you have another recommendation, Becky?
I do, just because I know I've got a whole lot.
Yay!
The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. Did I grab the right one? Yes, I do. I've got a lot of other Sherlock Holmes here.
Oh, wow. That's a legit collection.
I know, and I found them at the used bookstore. I was
That's exciting.
So this particular edition, like I like, but they are from the late 80s or early 90s. So I'm showing this more as a Victober recommendation, especially because I think The Woman in White and The Moonstone and some of Edgar Allan Poe's stories are more considered the first true mysteries, but Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes are the books
he paved the way.
He did. And for like the professional detective, this is really where it started. And I feel like The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, they are short stories, so they are easier to get through. And I feel like the most iconic and classic and most memorable Sherlock Holmes stories come from The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So in the first 2 seasons of the TV show Sherlock, a lot of the stories that they were getting were from The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So I feel the ones that Wishbone did, they did Count of the Baskervilles, and they did one of the stories from The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So if you want like classic, go back to the original source, early Victorian mystery, Sherlock Holmes.
Yes, and I think I prefer the short stories.
I actually do too. I haven't read Hound of the Baskervilles since high school. Yes. So I'd like to go back and read that one and see. I remember struggling with it, but it was early high school. I was probably 14. So now that I'm older, I'd like to go back and see how it holds out. But I remember enjoying the short stories more.
Yes. Yeah, something about the way he unfolds the mystery. I feel like it's just like really, sometimes in the longer books it feels kind of long-winded, and I feel like it's just like bam with the short stories, and it really it packs a punch in the short stories.
Yes. Yes.
So next, this is like a slight, ever so slight cheat because it was published in 1902, but it's only like a year late. And I was actually, before we started our live show, I was looking at the introduction. I was hoping it was saying like written in 1900, but only published in 1902, which I mean, really, it was probably written in 1901 if it was published in 1902. Anyhow, this is A Welsh Witch by Alan Rain, and this is published by Hano Books, and it's their line. They have a line of Welsh women's classics. So it's a Welsh publishing company, and it was really great. I wrote to them last year, and they sent me several books. And what the lovely thing, and I have, some of their other ones about theirs, is they have this little dent right here. So when you open it, it folds at the dent. Does that make sense? Instead of at the spine?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yes. That's a lovely thing to do to books because the spine still looks immaculate. So yes, Alan Rain is the pseudonym of Anne Adeliza Puttycombe. So this is if you like the Brontes, this is like, you would really enjoy the atmosphere in this. It's set in a shore town in Wales. And this girl, who is the main character, Katrin, is just really odd, and she's really different. And so this little like provincial village doesn't know what to do with her, so they just say she's a witch just because she likes to hang out outside. And they're there's 4 main characters, and so it's kind of about the relationships and romantic entanglements between these 4 main characters. But it just had some places that gave me chills just for how beautiful it was. And I mean, it starts off where it says, the lights and shadows of an April day and the solemn silence that sometimes falls on a calm sea were brooding over a sheltered bay as the lark plowed her way through the green pellucid waters. She was only a small smack of 80 tons burden, very creaky as to masts, very patchy as to sails, and requiring much overhauling and caulking and hulk. But in the opinion of the master and owner, there was not a ship that crossed the bay that rode so gracefully, that weathered the storm so bravely, or carried more important cargoes than she did. So I just love it, like really sets the stage immediately. And I like, you do get to see, I like books where you get to see characters travel to different places. And so some of the characters travel out of this little teeny tiny town to see kind of the bigger world out there. And really good book.
I'll have to add that to my TBR because it sounds delightful.
Excellent. And the ebook is out there. Unfortunately, it is like, it was out of print for a long time before Hano did, so it would be rare to happen upon it. But like Abe Books / ABE Books, it's there to help us find books like that.
Wonderful resource.
So Bethany, do you have another one?
Actually, I have kind of a question. And I didn't know if either of you have ever looked into this before or not, but you know, the Bronte sisters wrote under male pseudonyms for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And George Eliot was Marianne Evans Cross. So why wasn't she ever published? Like, why are her books still under George Eliot? I was like, what? I mean, like Anne Bronte, wasn't she Acton Bell? That's what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, why isn't it still like Agnes Grey by Acton Bell? I don't know. It just hit me the other day. Like, George Eliot wasn't really her actual name, and nobody says Marianne Evans Cross. They're all like, oh, George Eliot, she was amazing, and I was like, I wonder why that still stayed with her, whereas with the Bronte sisters, that dropped off.
That's very odd.
Becky, do you have
I know what I'm researching tonight.
Yeah, right? Yeah. That's very interesting. Wow, that kind of blew my mind, Bethany. I'm gonna be...
Well, when the challenge prompt was brought up that, like, you need to look for a female author who wrote under either anonymously or a male pseudonym, I was, like, looking into that, and I'm like, wait, why is she still called George Eliot? Like, these other women aren't still called by their male pseudonyms, and they aren't still published, like, the books aren't still published like that. Okay. But if you put Middlemarch by Marianne Evans Cross, people would be like, what is that? Like,
yeah, they would. They'd be like, no, that was George Eliot who wrote it.
Yeah. Plagiarism! This is wrong. I don't know. It just, I was just like thinking about that, looking into that. And I'm sure somebody knows the history behind that. Like, was George Eliot more published in her time? Or, you know, and the Bronte sisters were discovered a little afterwards, and I don't know. Or was she more convincing as a male author?
Because she's so serious. Her books are very serious. Sometimes I'm like, lighten up, Marianne / George. She actually wrote an essay where she threw some major shade. Katie from Books and Things told me about it. It's called like On Female Novelists or something. And she's like pretty snooty, like kind of would have been like too good for like Margaret Oliphant. And and I was just like, I actually wanted to make a video about it, but I didn't. It was like so well written though, even though it was snooty, so I didn't know how to combat it.
I want to be mad at it, but I want to gush about it at the same time.
I like trash Victorian fiction, George Eliot, okay? And
True.
I love Lady Godley's Secret, so just leave me alone.
Oh my gosh, I just finished reading Northanger Abbey, and it was really hard because the protagonist is always reading these gothic sensation novels, and like people rake her over the coals for it. I'm like, but I like them too.
At least she had a hobby.
Yes.
True.
Well, that's why Mr. Tilney is so wonderful, because he likes novels. Ugh.
I know.
Oh, Maria Alvarez says that's true. I've never thought about that. That happens with George Sand too. So George Sand was a French author, and people still call her George Sand. Maria, do you know her given name? Because I can't remember it.
Why is it always the Georges that stick? George Sand, George Eliot.
Yes. Okay, so the next recommendation / addition is the Knickerbocker, which is the funniest name. But these have a handy dandy little, yay, there's Dracula. Becky, who gave you that fabulous copy?
Some friend of mine named Kate.
Boy, she's a really good friend to have, but not
She's
quite,
a pretty great friend.
Not quite as good as somebody who gives you a sweatshirt for your favorite time of year. So Great Expectations, I've never heard someone say it was okay. I've either heard people say, oh, I love Great Expectations, or, oh, I really did not like Great Expectations. Unless I'm like totally wrong and you guys would say it was okay, or did you say you didn't like it?
I liked like the first third.
You liked it,
and I did not enjoy the rest.
Okay. I got annoyed by it too. I was just like, ugh, no. Why Dickens? Why?
No. Why though? Yeah, so it is hit or miss. I can't guarantee you that you'll like it. But these are cool because is it fabric?
I think they're cloth bound. If not, they found an amazing way to make cardboard feel very soft.
Yeah, they did. And the pages are very soft. I really like the feel of these pages. And the smell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You're over there sniffing your butts.
Katie from, I want to say Books and Things, but not Life Between Words. Do you know the first time, like, well, she and her husband met while they worked at a Barnes & Noble, and the first time he was like, huh, like she stood out to him, he looked and she was in the children's section sniffing a book. And he's like, she's different. I want to get to know her. Isn't that? It seems like how Kathleen Kelly and You've Got Mail would have met her husband.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Delightful.
You can just jump in. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. It's interesting on the Victober Goodreads group. I've been hearing a lot of people say like, oh, Thomas Hardy is like so like unrelentingly bleak. I read Tess of the D'Urbervilles or I read Jude the Obscure and it was just so bleak. And I am not saying those books aren't bleak, but I think maybe if you start with those, they're kind of off-putting and put you off Thomas Hardy altogether. I have just 2 Thomas Hardy that I read. But this one is like definitely one of his happier ones. But what I really like about Thomas Hardy is how the land is such a fixture and a character in his novels. And how certain characters are more connected to the land or more disconnected to the land. So yeah. And this one also I'll say too. Oh yay, Coffee Books and BBC loves Hardy. I want to read all of Hardy. So just very pastoral feeling, and the protagonist in this, Bathsheba, as the British would say, or Bathsheba, as Americans say it, I don't like her, and I still adored this book. Like, even the protagonist did not ruin the book for me.
I haven't read anything by Thomas Hardy other than maybe some poetry, but I'm wondering if maybe that's kind of a common theme with him, to have maybe like sort of an unlovable protagonist, or somebody who struggles and you can't maybe like quite love them. I don't know, but I haven't read anything by him. I'm familiar with Tess of the D'Urbervilles because I watched the series and I was like, oh, I don't know about this one. Like, this is so down. But I don't know. I'm interested in reading Desperate Remedy.
I think I know a couple people who have liked her, but I hear more people say they don't. They're definitely they are not flat characters. So they're definitely like, they definitely have weaknesses, but they have strengths as well. Coffee Books and BBC. Tess is one of my favorite books ever. What does that say about me? Well, you know what? There are depressing books that I like, but I don't know if people know that the endings are depressing, so that's why I don't want to bring them up. But there are books out there that have really depressing endings. But I think it can still have, like, true-to-life things to say.
Right.
Even if it's really bleak. Yeah.
And sometimes it depends on how you study it and, like, when you read it, too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I think it has a reputation for being bleak. Sylvia's Lovers by Elizabeth Gaskell, I absolutely love. And it's extremely bleak. But I really, really love it. Just because the writing is so beautiful, the characters just like jump off the page. Yeah. Short little nugget, Cranford by Elizabeth Gaskell. And we were discussing these ladies, the Penguin English Library with the like striped spine. So this does have the velvety cover, but I only knew that because I saw it in a used bookstore.
Okay.
So, because apparently the covers are not always consistent with how they feel. Yeah. Oh, and I love this painting of Elizabeth Gaskell.
Oh,
it's pretty. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
That must be like a special edition then. Like, because it has so many differences, like with the painting. And I don't think I've got The Warden by Anthony Trollope, and the cover feels like paper, just like normal.
So maybe just in the velvety ones, they do that on the inside cover. That's interesting.
Yeah, the inside cover is blank. So I was kind of like, oh, I wonder if that's like even Penguin, man. They're like, every edition is different.
Penguin. So, Bethany, you do recommend The Warden, right?
Yes, because to read The Warden, you get a foundation for Barchester Towers and the rest.
That's a very caveated recommendation.
It wasn't my favorite. Luckily, it was short. I don't know. It was kind of like church drama. It was like, oh, he was too noble to, let the insults, get to him, and I don't know, the main character seemed like he just kind of rolled over and took a lot of things.
Totally.
And I was like,
so I did an audiobook.
Get into some...
Yeah, plow through along the series. And how far are you through the series?
I am up to Dr. Thorne. That's the one I got to read next. So I'm only 3 books in. But I watched the mini-series already.
Dr. Thorne is when it like really took it up for me. I was like, yeah, I like it before that. But then I loved Framley Parsonage even more. So that's the next one after it. And then I'm reading The Small House at Allington for Maria Alvarez is the Penguin English Library. The newer ones have the paper covers. So they stopped with the velvety ones. So yeah, I love the flop. It's just perfect.
Which one is
that? Hill asks, have any of you ladies read Gothic Tales by Elizabeth Gaskell? I think, Kate, did you read it?
I have not read it. Bethany, have you read it, or is it on your TBR?
No, I read it last Victober. And it's really good if you want to read something by Elizabeth Gaskell, but you're not sure if you want to commit to like one of her larger novels. This is great because it's a bunch of like eerie, spooky short stories. I'm sure you've probably read some of the stories that are in here.
Do you mind reading the list?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I'm going to have to add this to my TBR.
Oh, yeah. The first one...
It's like not a huge commitment.
No. It's easy because you can pick it up and do like a short story here and there, and you get the full story in like 1 or 2 sittings. It's really... They're pretty short, so...
Okay.
There's Disappearances, The Old Nurse's Story, The Squire's Story, The Poor Clare, The Doom of the Griffiths, Lois the Witch? How would you say that?
Yeah, Lois.
Mm-hmm. Lois the Witch. Mm-hmm. The Crooked Branch, Curious If True, and The Grey Woman. I would say Lois the Witch was like the craziest to me. It stood out to me, and I was just like, oh my god. They were all really good though. So yeah, if you want to read something by Elizabeth Gaskell this Victober and you're like, I don't want to get like something huge and get overwhelmed, this is really a nice one to pick up.
Okay.
Definitely.
I read The Old Nurse's Story, and that one was really creepy to me too.
Yeah.
It was really good. Yeah. Do you guys, I'm sorry, I like keep holding up all the recommendations. So do you have other ones?
You're one of the Victober hosts. If you weren't this excited, we would be worried.
I get it. Sit on my hands. Is that the ghoul in your attic, Becky?
I know. It's either that or my husband rearranging the bookshelves in the other room. I'm not sure.
He's like, she's doing a live show.
Bethany, how about you go next and I'll double check on my husband.
Okay, I was going to ask too, does anybody know what's up with the differences in these editions? Because sometimes the artwork is the same, but these ones are much sloppier.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then I just showed these are both Framley Parsonage Penguin.
Yeah. That's so funny.
What's that?
That he's alive.
The bookshelf didn't fall on him, right?
No. He is rearranging books.
Yeah, it says Penguin Books, Penguin Classics.
Becky and I were thinking maybe that the publication, like they were revamped, maybe like in 2004.
Yes. Yeah, so that was 1984 is like the little one that's not as pretty. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just like the new look of the Penguin Black Spine. Very
And
odd.
then they had to do the English library ones too because this wasn't enough.
Well, then the Middlemarch cover I show is called, what do they call it? Penguin Heritage Classics.
Oh my god.
And then you have the Penguin cloth-bound hardcovers.
Yes. Yes. Oh, is that a recommendation you're holding up there, Becky?
Yeah, what is that?
Jane Eyre.
Woohoo!
This is Jane Eyre. So I'd had several people tell me last year, I think, that they thought I would love Jane Eyre. Normally I borrow books from the library before buying them just to check them out. Make sure I like them.
But
whatever. Anyway, but this one I had enough people tell me they thought I would love it. So I don't remember if this was a birthday or Christmas present to myself, but I had a couple of friends say that they really liked the Penguin cloth-bound hardback editions. I can't remember if classic is in the title or not. But they're very pretty, and for being hardcovers, they are actually pretty lightweight, which I like. I did have to break it in a little bit, but once you break it in, they're pretty easy to read. And these, one thing I liked about them is I do like reading commentary on classics after I've read the actual book, because I want to formulate my own opinions and pick up on themes myself before reading someone else's interpretation.
yes.
The one thing I don't like, and I can't remember if it's the Barnes and Noble ones or if it's the Penguin one, is that the footnotes are footnotes on the bottom of the page. And I find myself always being distracted by them, and sometimes they will allude to things that happen later in the book.
You know what's funny though is I'm like, with Oxford World Classics, I'm like, they make me work and flip all the way to the end to look.
I like it that they're at the end. So I like that this is the footnotes so that I don't have spoilers. Which, Bree Hill, I see one that was recommended to me today was Wuthering Heights. Have either of you read it? Yes, I have read Wuthering Heights. I'm going off on a tangent about that because when I read Wuthering Heights, all the footnotes were on the bottom of the page. And I read one that was like, well, later in the book, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, don't tell me what happened, you evil editor. My goodness.
Well, except it's annoying because I like it when I obviously don't like it when there are spoilers, but I like it when it's like a slang or, something in the vernacular that I'm just like, what are they saying?
Yes. Jane Eyre has a lot of references to biblical stories, which I grew up in the church, so I was very familiar with a lot of those metaphors. But if you aren't and some of them were a little more obscure. Like there were a couple where I was like, I don't know where this is. But if you didn't grow up in the church, you aren't as familiar with some of those biblical references, I do think that having those footnotes is very helpful because it does give you a picture, just a better understanding of the book. So yes, love Jane Eyre. I read Wuthering Heights 3 or 4 years ago. I plan on rereading it this month. Wuthering Heights, I remember really enjoying. I do not remember a ton ton of the plot. I remember the ending. I don't remember a lot of what happens in between.
Yes.
So I'm really curious to see how it holds up in a reread. I would just say, please do not go into it assuming it will be a romance, because you will be disappointed.
Buckle up for some evil people.
Yes, but if you realize that it's a story about evil people, like me, you might absolutely love it. But I know a couple people that were turned off by it, but I think they went in with different expectations and found it disappointing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and I like Katie from Books and Things says it's not a romance, it is a revenge tale. So yeah, I think if you go in just wanting to be like kind of in awe of a great storyteller, and a really unique way, it's a story within a story within a story. It's really very just fabulous. So I'm actually going to be rereading it during actual Victober. And I'm hoping that it does hold up to a reread. Same. I do know, I remember just being kind of like, whoa, in her passages about nature.
Yes.
I was just like, whoa, this lady can write.
Yes, and I will say Jane Eyre is a little bit of an easier read, and I think part of that is Wuthering Heights has a lot more local dialect. So the servants talk a lot, and it's written that way. So there were parts of Wuthering Heights that I had to read out loud to myself, and once I read it out loud, it was like, oh yes, I can picture someone from a lower class in 1840s England speaking this way. But to read it on the page, it can feel a little challenging, but I wouldn't let that deter you from picking it up and reading it. Coffee Books in BBC says, Wuthering Heights, wonderful book, horrid people. That is a delightful way to put it.
It is. It is. Oh, and then Maria Alvarez says, I love Anne Bronte so much that I can't even try to read Charlotte. I can't forgive her for stopping the publication of Anne's books. I'll try since I own all her books. LOL. So, yeah, Charlotte. Charlotte was a little bit shady. Kind of didn't want her other sister's books to be published as well as hers. And Maria, I think she was a little bit mad because Anne, I feel like Anne's The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is kind of just like a big like slap in the face of Jane Eyre.
Yes, I felt that way too. Honestly,
yes. It's also on my TBR.
But my only thing is, okay, in The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, this is not going to be any spoilers. In the parts that are the present narrative, I am like so invested. I love hearing it. But the parts that are the past narrative, which is like a third of the book, or 2/3 of the book rather, it just got so repetitive to me. And it's not that it's poorly written, it's just I wasn't that invested in that part. So if I really enjoyed the beginning and I really enjoyed the end. But when it's all like summary of what happened, I don't know why. I just couldn't. I was like swoony during Jane Eyre. Obviously, I don't want to be married to someone like Rochester, but just he is not relationship goals. But I found myself. Bree asked me about Villette. Villette is another one I have a lot of trouble with. These are both, I want to reread both The Tenant of Wildfell Hall and Villette. Villette is one that I was like bored to tears.
Bethany, we're in for a ride.
I know, we're buddy reading it for Victober. Hey, at least we can whine together, complain in our misery and boredom.
Let's prove Kate wrong.
I know a fair number of people who like it more than Jane Eyre, Bree. Like, really, you could end up, I think I am a unique person who likes a lot of what the Brontes write, but doesn't like Villette. So maybe it was like the wrong time for me to read it. I don't know. I did an audiobook format. Maybe that was wrong.
Ooh.
I don't know. So that is so fun, though, that you guys are buddy reading it.
Yes. So check back at the end of October, and we will have.
We're going to do a live show at the end of October, and we'll summarize and talk about our reads. And that'll only be 5 hours long,
Right? Yes. 5 full hours.
You might have to do 5 parts. Like November will just be October wrap-up.
What we did for this prompt.
Yes.
3 hours later.
Okay, so it's not like quite as eye-catching as your Jane Eyre, but I like the compactness of it and the gold foiling on the edges of the pages. It's very like sweet and cozy, and actually my Wuthering Heights is the same kind. And it has a
Ooh.
little ribbon mark. It's Collector's Library also, but the other ones are called Collector's Library. This is so confusing. Oh, but the spine, guys, or the actual inside, the bright red.
Yes.
I like those.
So pretty. Bethany, do you have any more to share?
I don't think I do. I mean, did I talk about Martin Chuzzlewit? A little bit. I showed you the cover, but the
briefly.
story, it's long, but I feel like it's just got so many colorful characters. Like, if you don't come out of this book absolutely loving Tom Pinch and wanting to hug him, then you probably read it wrong, because he is such a great character. So you find characters you love and characters you just love to hate, and Martin's trying to make his way in the world, and he kind of discovers who he can trust and who he can't trust, and I thought it was really good. It's been a long time, so I definitely need to do a reread of this pretty soon. But Victober's kind of full, so we might have to wait a while.
Yes, it is. That's the thing is this happened last year. I got like so pumped about Victorian literature, and I was like, I'm going to read like 5 every month. And then I got distracted by everything, and it's just this cycle is starting again. Now I'm like, I want to read 5 every month. But it's nice to have variety in your reading, I think, when it comes down to it.
Once it's over, you're like, oh, give me some nonfiction.
Yes.
Like, I need something to break up all the October.
Nonfiction November. Yeah, it's like
Yes.
It's not like a classic readathon and then another classic readathon. Like I think nonfiction November feels like very refreshing. Last year was the first year I ever participated, and I kind of just picked a bunch of books last minute, and I did have some I enjoyed, but this year I've been like paying attention, and I have now ordered several, like used on books, of course, not sponsored.
It's sure it's not.
And so that'll be really nice to like head into it, and it'll cushion the blow of October being over. But let's not think about that yet. I do have this other little cozy edition of Great Expectations. It is kind of like, I don't know. It is what it is, but I think it's kind of cozy looking, and it was only 45 cents when it was sold.
Nice.
And I just love how like teeny it is, and just like this is one you could like toss in your purse.
Yes.
My last one, I finally got through them, is Lorna Doone. I love this book so much.
I want to read that.
Me too.
So sweet. It's so sweet, but it's very much like edge of your seat as far as okay, it's weird because there's like there'll be like a big time period where nothing much happens, and it just talks about what they do at home and the food they cook and everything. There's lots of like really domestic portions, but then it'll be like, and then this person came and tried to kill this person, and then like and then there was like a fire, and so it's fun though because it does really feel, I think it takes place over the course of a year, and it does really feel like a year, or maybe longer, maybe a good portion of it is a year and then later. Anyhow, it was praised by Thomas Hardy apparently.
Oh.
Yeah. So I do have Clara Vaughan, also by R.D. Blackmore, which people apparently thought at first was maybe actually written by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. That was like the gossip of the day.
Ooh.
And that is actually also one of the first detective stories. I'm pretty sure it's that Clara Vaughan's father disappears mysteriously, and so she just takes it upon herself to investigate. So already that's cool because it seems like a not just like totally angelic female character who has no agency in a Victorian novel. Because sometimes they're hard to come upon.
Yes.
Interesting women in Victorian novels.
Yes.
Have you read East Lynne, Kate?
That's on my TBR for this month, and I'm buddy reading it with Katie.
So good. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. So excited.
Because did you say Anna Karenina meets Middlemarch?
Yes. Yes. I'm so amazed you remembered that.
Well, no, because just the combination of those two, it's like my mind doesn't know how to handle it. It's like the most exciting thing ever.
Well, hopefully I didn't overhype it for you. I'm like, ooh, I hope she likes it.
I doubt
loved
it.
it. I thought it was really good.
There isn't like, I feel like, okay, did it have the same kind of suspense and excitement to you as like The Woman in White or Lady Audley's Secret?
Not as much. It was almost more like family drama, a little bit.
I can get behind that.
It was,
I'm feeling optimistic.
suspenseful in its way, but not. I mean, you go into it pretty much knowing what's going on through everything, whereas with like Lady Audley, you're not sure. So, yeah, it's like waiting to see how everything's gonna turn out and what's like how they're gonna react to it and how things are gonna be resolved, I guess. So
you know what? That it like might sound odd, but that was kind of actually the case for Framley Parsonage. Somebody makes a really stupid decision at the beginning, but you're following their inner dialogue, and then the whole time you're like, "Oh no, what's gonna happen?" Before everything hits the fan. So, yes, I'm so excited now. I mean, I was excited before, but I'm even more excited.
I know, right?
So I was going to do videos I talked to you guys about of reading like the ghost stories out or whatever.
Yes.
It's not happening. I was so it would take, honestly, some of them I think it would be like an hour long. Would be like how long. Yeah. So I just don't think I read well enough for somebody to sit there for an hour and listen to my voice. So like listening to a professional or whatever, but that's just, I don't know. I want to put out videos out there that I'm like really excited for people to see, and I would kind of be like, oh, I got something to sell there, and then I would be like stressed out. So I think we're better off without. One thing I was hoping to find was if I could still do maybe like one for my Cinderella project during Victober, and I was like, Cinderella retelling, but they didn't call them that. So if there are ones, it would be like a very loose retelling, and they wouldn't call it that. So,
yeah.
Yes. So I
have one more book that I would like to show off.
Please do.
Just because I think it's cool. So, now this one is Victorian literature. I'm not necessarily going to recommend it because I haven't read them yet. So, but it is on my TBR for this Victober. This is a Heritage Press edition. I think it was supposed to have a slipcase, but mine didn't come with a slipcase. Heritage Press is no longer in business, so anything you get up there is used. But this side is H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. This side is H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds.
Fancy.
So it is two books in one edition, but the text is flipped. So you get through the book, and then
it's upside down.
And then it's upside down because The Time Machine is not very long. So I'd seen so many books that were like the two put together. And I was like, I just don't. I kind of have issues when like multiple books are put together in the same edition. My husband loves that format. It just kind of annoys me. Yes. But I saw this one and I was like, oh, it flips. That is just the coolest thing ever.
Well, because they're two short ones, so it feels different.
Yeah, and I just love that it will feel. And part of me, like I think part of the reason I don't like having multiple books in one edition normally is because I will feel the paper, and so I feel like the story is going on, and then it will end, and I'll feel like, but I have all this book left. But with this, yes, I'll be able to see how much of the book I have in the right direction.
That's awesome.
So anyway,
yeah. Sorry, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I was just really excited when I found this edition at a used bookstore, and they were on my TBR, and I was pretty sure I wanted to read it for Victober. So, yes, and I think I told the story about how I'd seen The Woman in White in the library in college, but never got around to reading it.
Yes.
That was a Heritage Press edition.
Okay.
I actually found it and thought about buying it, but I did not love the illustrations that were in it. So I decided to go with that Everyman's
Yeah.
Library.
Did it come out in like the 80s?
I want to say 60s and 70s.
Oh, okay. I feel like 80s illustrations in classics books were like particularly ugly.
Yeah. For the H.G. Wells, it says the special contents of this edition were copyright 1964.
Okay.
I feel like Heritage Press may have also been one of those like books through the mail publishers, but I'm not positive, so don't quote me on that.
Oh,
but I spent a lot of
that.
time on Wikipedia one night, and I read about him. So
Nice. Well, why don't we, to end things, each talk about the either one or maybe two books we're most excited to read during Victober. So while you're thinking, then maybe I'll go first, because I was like thinking about it earlier. Okay, so I think the top two that I'm the most excited about, and maybe because I don't know, I like bought them recently, so they're more in my mind. Anyhow, is The Mayor of Casterbridge by Thomas Hardy. I've heard this one is very, very like fast paced, and you just don't know what's going to happen next. And so maybe, hopefully it still has like the beautiful pastoral writing that Far From the Madding Crowd had, because that just like captured my soul. But I know from Thomas Hardy fans that they like really enjoyed it. I think I asked Ange from Beyond the Pages, like basically, what are your favorite ones? And I want to make those like top priority. And that was one of the first ones she said was The Mayor of Casterbridge. And this is on, it's on like all the synopses, so I don't feel like guilty saying this at all. It starts out where a guy one night when he's drunk sells his wife and daughter. And then it's kind of just like the consequences of that. Yeah. So sounds definitely interesting. And then The Trail of the Serpent by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. So this one involves a mute detective who uses sign language. And Sarah Waters. Have you guys heard of Sarah Waters?
No.
He writes like neo-Victorian novels, so like kind of suspense ones that are set then, and she's really popular. And she gave an introduction to it, so she like really liked it. And I'm going to be reading it with the Mary Stuart ladies.
Lovely.
Yeah. And then Kate from the novel Nomad is also going to be reading that. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one too.
Bethany, you can go next because I'm still organizing my thoughts.
Okay, so I will. No problem. North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I have never read this. I saw the miniseries. Oh, so swoon-worthy, right? The miniseries is just...
I had to rewind the ending scene like 4 times.
Yes, the
Kate
best.
made me watch the ending scene when we were living together in college.
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, I remember you were like, you have to watch this. And you like sat me down. I had no context for the story. You were like, this. And I watched it. And I was just kind of like, okay. And you're like, well, you don't have the whole backstory, but this is the best ending of anything ever. I was just like, okay, Kate. I'm sure it's wonderful, but I had no
excitement.
Don't feel bad, Kate. I remember going to a sleepover and we all watched Wives and Daughters, the miniseries of Wives and Daughters. And the whole time, we're just all sitting there going, Roger! Oh my God. I mean, we were teenagers and we're like just swooning over Roger the entire time. And it was
handsome. Like, oh, that's so...
You just, Roger's where it's at.
Yes. He's perfect. So wait, Bethany, sorry, have you read Wives and Daughters?
Yes.
Okay.
I read it also after watching the miniseries, but I think I read it like a year or 2 ago, maybe 3. I forget.
And you enjoyed it, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
It's so good. I was so sad at the ending because I didn't know that she hadn't completed it. And I was reading it on my Kindle, and I was like, they forgot the end of the book. I was like, what the heck? And then I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. But the miniseries had given you an ending, kind of. So
Yes.
I already had that like in my mind. I was like, okay, well, I can imagine
Yeah.
an ending
Well,
for
and
it.
also you should Google. There is her editor made like a statement of like even more about the plot that she had said was going to happen. And
Nice.
I didn't know that until I read it with some friends in May, and Kate like sent a link, and I was like, "Whoa, this is like even more detailed than the miniseries." But I just read, so you know, I've been reading Elizabeth Gaskell's letters, and I read a letter from a friend to another friend saying that she had passed away, and it was so sad because she had saved up income from the different novels she had published and had bought a house in the country for her husband because they lived in Manchester, which was like very industrial and like, you know, kind of the setting for North and South. And she went with her daughters and was so excited and planning and just like setting the house up just how he would like it. And then towards the end of the week, she just grabbed her chest and fell. And that was like she just died so suddenly. I know. She was all excited to show him the house, and she had even said earlier that week, like, I feel better than I have in such a long time. I feel so energetic, and
Oh,
yeah, I know.
that's so tragic.
I
Have
know.
you read?
But I will say, she's one of the few Victorian authors who had like a happy life. Like she got all along well with all her daughters. They were very close with her, and she had a like relatively happy marriage. So
Have you read Edwin Drood, The Mystery of Edwin Drood? I don't think you said.
no,
I think
that
you
is
said you
so
hadn't.
ironic. That
Unfinished
would be his
books. Now we're
next
on a
one.
trail.
Yes, yes. So yeah, so you're reading North and South. I'm very
Yeah,
excited for you, and I think it's definitely um really a good one for Victober.
I'm excited.
Oh, did you see me post before on Instagram about Bonnets at Dawn, the podcast?
Yes, yeah,
I
that's
can't
right.
remember.
I wrote it down because I'm like, I have to check that out.
Yes, and Bethany, they have a whole series of episodes where they discuss all the chapters to North and South.
Ooh.
And it's really fun, and they do little trivia and everything. I think they do every like maybe 15 chapters is like an hour-long episode.
Cool.
Yeah.
That
It's
would be a
very
fun
fun.
companion, reading the book and then like listening.
That's
After the...
exactly what I did. I reread it this year and I did that. And it was just such a treat. It was like I got to go to book club, you know, but in my PJs.
Nice.
Gotta love
Yes.
technology for that.
Totally. Yeah, so you're looking forward to North and South. That's great.
Yeah.
Becky, do you have your thoughts organized?
Okay. So I'm a little torn because I want to read Lady Audley's Secret, but I don't. It'll depend on how much I can actually accomplish. That may get pushed to November, but I'm looking forward to reading that at some point this year.
Nice.
It's funny because I decided that this year I want to read Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson.
Oh.
And I know nothing about it except that Disney made a movie about it. That's probably a terrible adaptation. I don't know. That's because I've never seen the movie. I've never read the book. I just know James MacArthur, who I was
a
in.
newer one. I remember my dad watching it maybe like 10 years back. That like it was like a mini series, maybe the BBC made.
Okay. So I really don't know much about it, but I enjoyed Treasure Island. I really enjoyed Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to mix things up. Instead of, I'm going to read a slightly more adventure story for Victober. So I'm kind of going into it blind, but I've read things by Stevenson that I know I've enjoyed. So yeah. I feel very comfortable going in with it blind, and I haven't heard anyone else really talk about him a whole lot for Victober, so I kind of feel all hipster and going off the beat.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's what I'm excited for. That, and I really am excited to read H.G. Wells, just because I've never read any of his stuff, and so I think it'll be really fun to dive into some early science fiction.
Yes. I am going to try to fit in. I have both the audiobooks checked out on my phone, so maybe after I finish Flavia, fit in a couple of those to like add to recommendation videos.
Yeah,
Um,
they are short. That's another thing I'm excited about. Is a lot of my Victober reads are short, so I will feel very accomplished.
progress.
Yes.
Yes, totally. Yeah. I have also started a Google document with just all the Victorian novels that I've read.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because I just forget some. So I'm pretty sure I've written like every one I've read on there. Um, so yes, yeah. You know, Becky, that makes me think. I kind of do have. I don't think I have any necessarily adventure story on my TBR. I don't think I can fit one in, but I do want to read more of those. Dave really loves The White Company by Arthur Conan Doyle.
Oh,
Um,
I haven't read any of his non-Sherlock Holmes books. I want
yeah,
to.
yeah. I read, what is it called? The one that's like Jurassic Park, Lost World, and that was really fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I after reading Around the World in 80 Days, which I was going to read for October, and then I realized Jules Verne is French. His protagonist is English, but the author was French. After reading that, I was like, "Whoa, this is a whole other Victorian genre that I've
Yeah.
not really explored." And so I was like, "I need another adventure story just for something a little bit
Yeah.
different." So I'm
Very
excited.
fun. One
Yeah.
that I keep thinking about adding is Joseph Conrad's, like The Heart of Darkness and Lord Jim. Lord Jim is like, it's kind of like Robinson Crusoe, but shorter.
Okay. I really struggled with Heart of Darkness, but it's a classic.
Okay.
But
Well,
I read it in college and had a really rough semester when I read it.
okay.
It was my heaviest reading semester, so I wasn't able to put as much time into it.
Was that when you
So,
got home at the end of the year, you slept 16 hours?
no. This was
Oh,
fall
man.
semester senior year where I was doing 400 to 450 pages of academic reading a week, plus writing papers. It was a lot.
That's a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like
So not the
okay,
best
I need
time
to
for
read this,
art.
but I don't have any mental capacity to process it.
Did you say it was just really bleak? Or you were just bored?
No, I found it confusing. So
Interesting.
it's short. It,
Mm-hmm.
it's an adventure story. And again, I don't know if it's because of when I was reading it, I felt as though I'd be in one scene and then a couple pages later I'd be in another scene and I wouldn't know how I got from one to the other.
Oh.
Um, so in one
Very.
sense, I remember it being very fast paced and kind of getting lost, but I don't remember how much of that was the writing or how much of that was senioritis.
Right. Yeah, it's hard to know sometimes when you didn't like a book. Like, was it the book or was it me or was it the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. So if you end up reading that one, I will be very curious to hear your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I mean, I don't think I will in October. I kind of know. But it's one that's like super available on audiobook, so I think it's very likely maybe before the end of the year. You know what I should do is I'm going to do a new installment of like top 5 TBR Victober predictions. Maybe I should just add that on, so then that will seal the deal that like I will for sure read it in the near
Yeah.
future.
I feel like I need to start my 2019 Victober TBR already. I need to read this.
Well, I basically know anything I don't finish will just be recycled. Like I didn't finish, or I didn't even start John Halifax, A Gentleman, and so I just recycled that to this year's. So, and I just made a Goodreads folder for like October 2018.
I did too.
So, yeah. So then it's nice because you have it. You can look at like, oh yeah, I didn't read that. Well, ladies, the next time we do this, we're gonna be able to talk about everything that we did read.
I know. Well, unless we do something earlier.
Yeah, depending on how busy we all are.
Another one.
Yes.
Yeah, unless we do a bonus one.
There you go. Yes. But I'm excited. What are we going to do in November, guys? We won't have October to talk about.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll just stare at the screen.
We could sit here and be like, give us our book hangover cures. We'll have to ask everybody to give us recommendations to get us over this.
Well,
Harry Potter doesn't count, guys. That just puts us into a whole new book hangover. Don't do it.
well, ironically, I think I had brought up maybe we could talk about mysteries in November, which
Ooh, yeah.
mysteries can be a good cure for book hangover. So that will be fun. Yes.
We're
It'll
always
be
here
okay.
for
After Victober's over, it'll be okay. Yes. Well, thank you for doing this, ladies.
Yep. Thank you for hosting again.
Yeah.
This was a lot of fun.
Posting sort of. Posting on your page.
Yes.
Mooching off your page. Alrighty. Have a good evening.
All right. Good night.
Good night.